So, Prabhakar, you recently wrote a book which basically outlines what you think of the current state of the nation. We have been asked to focus more on the political economy of the country. Why don't you begin by describing what you find?
Arun and I were in the university together. He was our Students' Union president and a very good friend of mine. I say this because, I expect him to be a bit kind to me. Arun, I cannot be very cheerful when I start thinking about the political economy today. Both, I mean, the reason why I said political economy is, you can't see politics in isolation from the economy, and you can't see economy in isolation from the political thing. So it's both of them are meshed together. Let me give you what I find very important as far as the economy is concerned. And most of the things that I say are not unknown to you and most of the people here. What I'm trying to do, what I'll try to do, what I try to do in the book is to bring them all together and give them a context. And I know that as far as the economy is concerned, far more than I do, because you have been in it for a long time. You've been commenting on it. You've been trying to educate people, writing on it, sharing your perspectives. Since we are also talking today, immediately after the government has released the white paper, let's keep that aside for a while. In the economy, what I find very prominent is the kind of unemployment that we face today, especially youth unemployment. Of course, the government doesn't talk about it. I'll tell you, I'm sure most of you are aware that we have one of the highest youth unemployment rate in the world today. Youth unemployment. It's somewhere near about 24%. We are in the august company of countries like Iran, Syria, Lebanon, countries like that. Even a small neighbor, Bangladesh, has 12% youth unemployment. That's the kind of situation. And we also have a very large national debt. A national debt that we have increased by about 100 lakh crores in the last 10 years or 9 years. This is one more. And we also have a huge contraction of our domestic savings. And then you also have a situation where increasing number of people, most of them are high net worth individuals, what the economists like Arun call HNIs. Increasingly, they are not just leaving India, but they are relinquishing the Indian citizenship. And private investment has been falling. Notwithstanding what the captains of industry tell you, in public forums, Achhe din, everything is fine and all that. But to me, the proof of the pudding is if the entrepreneur, if the industrialist is willing to put his money, put his skin in the game, then I would take if they say that it is all good. But if they say it's all good, and if they don't put the money, then what does it mean? So this is one more thing. So there are many things, people who leave, and there is the rural market has not picked up. Before even before demonetization, Arun, you know very well, the economy was slowing down. It's not gone into recession, okay, but it was slowing down, marked slowing down. And then you had the mindless demonetization. I mean, the logic, even today, I don't understand. I do not know whether the government understands the logic. Immediately, much before there was any recovery from that, you had a pandemic. And in one quarter, you know, Arun, it was minus 23 growth in one quarter. Even today, we have not recovered from that. We have not recovered from demonetization disaster. We have not recovered from our battering that we received during pandemic. And then, you know, the stimulus package was addressed to the supply side rather than the demand
So
side.
in between, we had the ham-handed implementation of GST.
Here's GST. You know, what surprises me is, you know, taxation. Direct taxation, people who pay direct taxation are a few, tiny. But all of us pay taxation in terms of indirect taxation. There is nobody who doesn't pay taxes. But you know, people who come and say we are taxpayers, you know, we pay income tax, that's a different thing altogether. And you know, the incidence of direct taxation has been coming down, and the incidence of the indirect taxation has been going up, which means the incidence of taxation on the poorer section of the society has been increasing. And the government, probably with not realizing what it really means, when they say that, you know, our GST is increasing, which means that the indirect taxation is increasing. So, which means that the burden on the poorer sections of the people is falling disproportionately. So, this is one. We can go on and on the economy, but let me also say a couple of points about the political side of it. Look at the federal structure, especially when it comes to, you know, the finances. Now there are states which are agitating about it. Now you know it's in the public domain, the kind of you know, squeezing that the government of India has been indulging in. This is one, and then the entire political discourse has shifted away from the core ideals and core values of our republic. Secularism, for that matter, is one of them. You know, even BJP, Arun, you remember, I recollect, even BJP used to say that they were a secular party. And they used to say they were actually genuinely secular, and every other political party was a pseudo secular. Today, every political party, with a few honorable exceptions, very rare to find actually, with the very few exceptions, every political party and every political leader today says that he or she is also a Hindu, but not like them. You see, secular but not like them, to Hindu but not like them. That is the massive shift that has taken place in the polity. So economy and polity, you know, the drifting away, far away from the core values of our polity, core values of economy, is something which is very disturbing to me. And my book is an outcome of that kind of an anguish.
Let us actually situate India in the global context. Our share of global GDP is below our share in the global population. We are a very large economy, but our per capita incomes are still very low. You constantly hear this refrain that we are the fifth largest economy, we'll soon be the third largest economy. But where are you in terms of per capita income? How does this ranking of absolute size of the economy figure in the lives of ordinary people? India is able to spend 27 to 28% of GDP through the government. A country like France, which is of course a capitalist country, government spending as a share of GDP is more than 50%, 54%. They are trying to bring it down, but it's more than 50%. Britain, under Margaret Thatcher, brought down government spending as a proportion of GDP from 44% to 40%. No, these are capitalist countries, not socialist countries. India,
Who detest state spending.
yeah, state spending. State spending, state and center put together is hardly 28% of GDP. So we are a very large economy with poor people who are possibly the largest source of human creativity in the world today, representing the largest pool of young people who are, as he said, unemployed, whose creative potential is failing to be tapped. And we live in a world driven by geopolitical tensions. The cool comfort of a bipolar world where India could play the US off against the Soviet Union and rest concessions, that climate is gone. We matter because we are the largest non-Chinese power in this region. So the US is wooing us, regardless of what they think of the man who leads this country and his politics. The US continues to woo us. And this goes back to when George Bush gave India a nuclear deal, and we became part of the quasi membership of the nuclear suppliers group, and left the isolation of technology denial we had faced till then. Are we making good use of this favorable environment? This is a question we must address. When you say you are the third largest or fifth largest, or we are soon going to be the third largest economy, are we in a position to say that we are using the world's resources to develop a nation? We are a young country. The developed world is old. And the old world has saved to ensure their retired life. Pension funds, pension savings, through insurance, huge amounts of money is at disposal on which they want huge returns. For those returns, they have no alternative but to come to a country like India to generate profits and take a share back with them. So India is actually in a position where it can reap the benefits of the world's need for high income and absorb large amounts of investment. But are we? They'll claim that they have, increased the amount of FDI coming into this country. But FDI is actually accumulating as foreign exchange reserves. Money comes in, but we are unable to absorb it in the real economy. And the unabsorbed money accumulates as foreign exchange reserves. Now, this needs to change, right? Now, the question is, what can we do? And as you said, very importantly, one reason why we don't get the kind of investment we should is corruption. Now, this government claims that it's all transparency, digital payments, we have clamored out corruption, we have demonetized corruption out of the system. In 2023, the Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, on that, India fell 8 points. We were 85th in 2022. In 2023, we became 93rd. So our corruption levels are actually not going down, they are going up. If this country is perceived to be corrupt, what does it mean? If somebody puts his money in India, will that actually be used to generate returns for which they are investing in this country? If the returns are generated, will it be properly reported in your income statements? If it is reported, will you actually kick it back to the investor? On all this, on corporate governance, on reporting standards and the ability to generate actual income and return it, there is doubt. So that is something, an obstacle which prevents a country like India from absorbing as much of foreign direct investment as is potentially available and is being offered to you, only if only you could use it. Now, what all do we need to change to make India realize its potential?
Arun, let me pick up one or two things from what Arun had said. When US or somebody looks at India, the World Bank looks at India, the IMF looks at India, or what are those rating agencies when they look at India? What do they look at? Do they look at 1.4 billion? They don't. They look at about uh, 330 million, because that's the market. You produce a fridge, they buy it. Car, they buy it. SUVs, they buy it. Luxury watches, they buy it. All the white goods, they buy. That's the market. The rest is not a market. So when they say India is the happening place, they look at 330 million. This is one. The second thing is, what happens when somebody wants to invest in India? They would like to look at the skill set. Do we have the skill set? I told you about the youth unemployment. It's true, as Arun pointed out, we have a huge young population, unlike the older economies, unlike the developed economies, starting from Japan to, and we will have this demographic dividend or the advantage maybe for another 10-15 years. That's it. After that, it will vanish. It's actually vanishing slowly and slowly. But we have not been able to leverage that because we do not invest in skills. In spite of whatever the government has been telling us, like Skill India, Startup India, Kalo India, that India, this India, and all that, we have not been investing in any of the programs that really make our young population skillful. Since Arun is also situating India in terms of the global context, Arun, you are aware that the skilling, worker skilling. If you look at in Japan, I think it's about 90%. 90% of the workforce and the potential workforce is trained. And South Korea is again very high, 85 or 86%. The lowest in any of the successful economies is somewhere around 70, 65 to 70 when it comes to United Kingdom and France and other EU countries. Now, situate India in that. India skilling is 5%. Gone are the days when you get into a college and come out of the college, get into a job and retire. No, it's over. You get into a college, acquire skills, you get into a job, every 4 years, 5 years, you retrain yourself. So between your joining of a job and leaving your job, at least 7 to 8 times you are trained and retrained and trained and retrained. That's the modern economy. Our days are gone where very happily we get into a job and we retire. Over. The youngsters, they have to go on. They have to be on their toes. That is the reality of the world economy. And today in that we are way behind. And we are not making any effort. And not only that, most of our youngsters are unemployed, but unhappily, most of them are unemployable. That is why you have all these companies, you take somebody and train them for 6 months, 8 months, even 1 year, and then employ, and that is the reason, because they do not have any trust in the formal education stream through which these youngsters come out. That is another one. So we are not doing that. That is the reason why you have a lot of youngsters who are now roaming the roads with one flag or the other, with one slogan or the other. That is another problem. What bothers me is this. that somewhere the core value has shifted from the discourse of equality. It could be social, it could be economic, equality, tolerance, acceptance, diversity, pluralism. Related to economy also, to inequality is all right. Let some people make money. It will slowly and slowly come to you and me also tomorrow. Just wait. Don't be impatient. Why can't you wait? And related to that is, you don't have to really worry about the continuing and deepening inequality anymore. So therefore, you have this macro picture painted. Could be in your white paper, could be in the speeches, could be in the budget documents, could be in the prime minister's speeches and all that. What is that? That is, Arun, it tells you that there were 125 billionaires about 10 years ago. There are 147 billionaires today. Aren't you happy? You should be happy, isn't it? It's a huge progress. One. Secondly, when even the United States government has given up the Washington consensus or the neoliberal paradigm and slowly moved back, reluctantly though, in the wake of the pandemic, for that some kind of a modified Keynesian kind of a thing where you address the demand side. If there's a pandemic, people are out of work. You have to put money in the pockets of the people so that they demand. What did we do? We put the money in the pockets of the manufacturer. When manufacture, that's the supply side is not the problem, because there is nobody to buy them even if you produce them. So that was the kind of so coming back to the change is that inequality, either politically or socially or economically, is not a value. It has to be addressed, it has to be mitigated, it has to be eliminated. Two, a value that inequality is all right. Be patient. It will come to you. It will trickle down. This is the shift that has taken place. Now, if you ask me, Arun, I would rather prefer somebody who is opposed to inequality. Maybe he or she is inefficient in attacking it, or tackling it, or addressing it, or incompetent, but fundamentally he or she is not in favor of inequality. I would favor that than to somebody who would propagate, who would advocate, who would bat for inequality and tells you that inequality is good. Since we are talking about the political economy, let me give you the counterpart. This is the economic side of it. Let me give you the political side of this inequality. Tolerance of inequality, or even batting for inequality, or promoting inequality, or advocating inequality. What is that? That is translated, if you translate this into the political domain, that means, Arun, the majority are good. Like the rich people are good. They'll take care of you. Don't worry. If there are billionaires growing, be happy. Tomorrow something will happen to you also. It will come down. Likewise, politically, the majority is a good. For instance, look at the majority. Are they aggressive? Have they invaded any other country? Have they done any violence? No. They will take care of you. You just have to say that yes, we are under you. You accept your status as a little subordinate to them. either a rich man or a majority. They will take care of you. Under their umbrella, you'll all be safe. So this is the counterpart to the economy. The politics and the entire scheme of things is these two are running parallel. That is the reason the government will tell you, the other day, maybe your former newspaper, it gave a headline. And of course, Arun taught me, and we were together in the university. We were taught that just don't be misled by the headlines. So we also look at, a little detail. We learned that in our college, in our university. I saw recently inflation at the lowest in this financial year. And then when I looked at it, it said it fell from 6.1 to 5.9. You know, lowest. That is the kind of misleading thing that they tell you. Now, what I want the government to say is, okay, your inflation management record is very good, wonderful. Okay, how do I know? How would I know? If you come and tell me that you used to buy your petrol at 60 rupees, now I'm giving it to you for 40 rupees. Prices are coming down. You used to buy your dal for 100 rupees, now I'm giving it to you for, it's available for 90 rupees. Yeah. You used to buy something for, your rice for this much, and now it is. Don't tell me from 7.2, I have brought it down to 6.9. No, don't tell me that. Tell me how much I paid about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and how much am I paying now? What was my bill then, and what is my bill now? So that is not forthcoming from the government. It will not be forthcoming from the government because it does not show the government in good light.
So, Prabhakar, I have a slightly different view on skills and inequality. Let me just articulate this. But I'm happy that you use skills in a very broad sense, that you go to a college and acquire skills. So, when you go to college, what you acquire is education. It's not really skills. Skills are transient. You learn to code in a particular language today. Day after tomorrow, the language is gone. You need to be adapted some other language. In your polytechnics, you still teach them how to do carpentry or some form of welding. That guy goes to a factory. This kind of welding doesn't happen anymore. Okay, he knows that there's something called welding, but does he really learn the useful skill? Skills, training skills in our education institutions, to my mind, is a wrong thing to do. You need people to be educated. Every human being, every child born today is a legitimate claimant to the knowledge mankind has or humankind has accumulated over the centuries or thousands of years. We learn Archimedes' principle. Those who go to college, those who go to school are able to learn that. But this universe of knowledge that percolates through the Google search engine is available to anybody. Now, are we in a position to absorb this? We need our people to be educated. They must learn to learn. It's not enough to learn stuff. I have learned this much, therefore I get 35%, I pass, I get a degree. No, as he said, you are challenged every 2-3 years to learn something. So you must learn to learn. You must learn to question. But can we learn to question in an authoritarian political structure? Apart from that, we have a cultural problem. India has for thousands of years been a caste society, hierarchical society. Questioning, asking questions, being critical is to question this hierarchy and question this authority. That is not something that is palatable to the cultural establishment, to the elite establishment. So there is a basic conflict between what has been a hierarchical social tradition and the requirement of empowering our young people to realize their full potential as creative, productive human beings who can learn anything, any new skill, and apply them to the task they are assigned. Is any political party addressing this? The agenda of removing, eradicating caste is off the table for any political party. You try to mobilize caste to get them to vote for you in the elections. So there is horizontal mobilization of every caste within itself. So you take up some token hero of that caste, you create a statue of his, put it up, celebrate him. So other people of that caste are happy. Are you addressing the basic problem of the caste hierarchy? Are you freeing people from the mental and physical shackles that hold back your productivity, creativity? You're not. On inequality, again, to my mind, the biggest challenge in India is to remove people from poverty. Poverty is killing. Poverty is drudgery. The poor person might be highly capable, but he doesn't have a chance to realize that capability, to deploy his potential to anything useful. So, being below the absolute poverty line is the biggest crime that can be perpetrated in a country like India. Now, if the choice is between creating fast growth that will take people out of poverty, but will at the same time, as a corollary, also increase income disparity, is that better to hold income disparity constant, but this process of fast growth that will remove poverty does not take place? So, to my mind, obsessing over the, you know, level of inequality, the Gini coefficient, and the shape of that curve is an elite pastime, which doesn't really take into account the absolute requirement of people who are really poor to move out of poverty and become human beings. You know, you people in Kerala, we people in Kerala, don't realize what kind of lives people live in North India. We are all human beings. We are human beings with entitlement, a sort of dignity, awareness of our rights, and our abilities to a certain extent. You know, people, you might find it shocking if I say that most people don't. Most people in this country don't. In Uttar Pradesh, they don't. When a BJP worker peed on the head of a tribal youth just to show his social superiority, what rights does a man have? So, he is poor not only in terms of income, he is poor in terms of social status, he is poor in terms of his cultural endowment. And unless this poverty is removed, you cannot really realize our human potential. If you go to Hyderabad or to Bangalore, you travel a lot, Prabhakar, you would see virtually every big multinational company in the world has a global capacity center somewhere in India, mostly in Hyderabad and in Noida, in Gurgaon, or in Bangalore. They are employing India's youth to develop technology. So yes, they have to train them because they don't come trained. But they innovate, they do research, but that research is dictated by these multinational companies. The fruits of their research go to the multinational companies to increase their profits further. So our human potential is being utilized to a certain extent by the world, biggest companies of the world, without that knowledge going to benefit our economy or our people. So, I mean, the point is not to reject globalization. We live in a globalized world. The music you listen to, young people, probably is as global. You probably listen to Spanish singers, African singers, as well as American and British and European singers. The internet has brought in the world into your consciousness in a way it never has in the past. The coordinates of your consciousness are now global. In this, capital is mobile, labor not so mobile, skills are mobile, technology is mobile. So the ability to achieve something great is truly huge. Now, if we hold our people back and create a kind of schooling where the ASA survey recently revealed that 44% of people in the age group 14 to 18, that is in the high school, cannot divide a 3-digit number by a 1-digit number. 44% of people. And we think we are a great country, Vishwa Guru. We are cheating our people. This is an immense swindle on the people of India that our current politics is performing.
I think we should also leave some time for questions, isn't it? I think we should have a. It's. I mean, it's not a monkey bath. It's a. We also. We should have a conversation. Let me say a couple of things in just about 5 minutes, and then we can have a conversation. To me, the entire thing boils down to the core value of democracy. Everything else can fit into it. It could be economy, it could be our social life, it could be our caste hierarchy, it could be, interreligious relationships and tolerance, plurality. Everything can be captured in. Now, what are we seeing today is that a complete rejection of the core principle of democracy. We have a parliament. And, we are told that we have an election, we have an elected house. But my point is, I'll give you one example. I'll make you recall one example. You have these 3 farm laws. They're very important because they impact the lives of the largest number of people in our country, either directly or indirectly, because that is the largest sector. Yeah, not only in terms of the number of people, but even our geography. It's a huge area. Now, the government brings in 3 laws. I'm not going into the merits or otherwise of this. They could be good, they could be bad, or whatever. But let's keep that aside. I have my own views, and Arun has his own views, and probably we can have a discussion. It's not merit or other. But how did we do that? We brought in 3 laws which impact the largest sector and impacts the largest number of people in our country, and the parliament does not even discuss these for 3 minutes. Okay? And there were protests. Some farmers said they were not good for them. So they were protesting. And what were they called? They were called anti-national. They were called Tukte gang. They were called, what else? Anti-India, secessionists, and Khalistanis, terrorists, and all that. Agreed. And then just a few days before the Punjab Assembly elections, the Prime Minister goes onto the national television and says that he was withdrawing them. And I do not know what he can be described as after anybody who opposed or who wanted these to be rolled back. They were called terrorists, Khalistanis, anti-India, but the Prime Minister also, says that he was rolling it back. Fine. And then the Parliament session is convened, and they were withdrawn again without any discussion. There was no discussion in Parliament when enacting. There was no discussion when they were withdrawn. I'm not going to the merits or demerits. Is that democracy? If democracy is just us going to the polling booth once in 5 years and casting a vote and coming out and shutting up, I do not think that is democracy. But that is what is now being thrown at us as democracy. One, of course, you need to have a structural analysis of what our democracy is. And I contend, both in my book as well as outside, I've been saying that so far in India, we never had a majority government. We always had the largest minority forming a government. And that's a different debate altogether. That is one. The second thing is that, you know, we are told not to worry because we had everything. And, I don't know how many of you have seen this. Somebody sent to me. I've seen one very chic Swamiji. Cool. He's very cool. And he says that, after the Mahabharata war, all the weapons were stored in a particular island. All the astras were stored in a particular island, and that is called Australia and Australia. You know how great we were? Everything, we knew everything. And you don't need, so because we knew everything long, long ago, you don't need periodic tables anymore, do you? What do you do with periodical tables? Periodic tables are not necessary. Um, this is one. And let me draw quickly to another thing, your attention to another thing is, this total hypocritical propaganda. I think it's time that all these things are called out. I don't know. I don't know what was your impression. I'll tell you my impression, and you mentally you compare notes with what I'm saying. When a few months ago, when we had G20 summit here, when I was going around, I went to, where you go to an airport, you see G20 posters. You go to a petrol station, you see G20 hoardings. On the highways, you G20, your social media G20, your television G20, newspapers G20, etc., etc., everywhere. And I got the impression, I don't read newspapers much, I don't, therefore I got the impression maybe the entire world, the leaders of America, England, France, China, Russia, Africa, Latin America, everybody, they all got together and said, look, what do we do with this world problem? Ukraine war and Gaza and all these things. They're just out of their depths. They didn't know what to do. And somebody said, if you don't know, if we can't, we just don't know what to do with this. Let's go and, ask the Vishwaguru. He'll tell you. So they all came here and took the jnana and went. That's what I thought. That's the impression that I had when I saw this kind of a huge branding. But, I spoke to somebody like Arun, and they told me, no, last year it was Indonesia, now it is here, and again tomorrow it's Brazil, and after that it'll go to somewhere else. Oh, I didn't know that it's a routine thing. But I got the impression that, the entire world came here to learn something and go. And then we had a huge, very catchy slogan. What was that? Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The entire world is one family. Entire earth is one family. Vasudha Kutumbakam. But not Manipur. Not that guy who eats that. No. But Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Not this guy who wears this. No. No. Not that fellow who lives in this place. Not that fellow who, speaks that language. No. That language, no. Not. But Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So this kind of a hypocritical thing that, you worship the past, we had everything, this is a creed. But actually, it is not an assertion of creed. I'm telling you, it's just a description. It's just a description. I happen to know a bit of Sanskrit, so that, it is found in a very, very minor Upanishad called the Mahopanishad. which is so minor that even Adi Shankara, your Adi Shankara or our Adi Shankara, did not even care to comment on it. It's not one of those Isha, Kena, Kata, Prishna, Munda, Mandukya, Taitari, Aithareyam, Shandogyam, Brotharanjam, nothing to do with all those 10 principal Upanishads. It's just a very minor one, which says simply this. I'll tell you what it says. It says, I am Nijaha, Paro Veti Ganana, Laguchetasam. Udara Chiritanam tu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That's all. It says that to reckon that person as mine and this person as not mine, para, the othering, is the characteristic of Laguchetasam, the small mind. Now you know who they are. The character of a broad mind, Udara Chiritanam tu, for them, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Now you know who is what and who's, but they fooled. They are saying that, we are, yeah, I got it. Yeah. We are, broad-minded. It's not a creed. This is the kind of, as Arun said, a cheating, making you, feel that maybe we were so great. Every civilization is great. We are great. We have to be greater. And I'll add one more sentence to this. Some time back, one of the very important ministers said that last 70 years were an aberration. I was shocked. Was last 100 years, 70 years an aberration, and we are going back. Even wearing clothes in the long history of humanity, wearing clothes is also an aberration. Eating food is also an aberration. Cooking food is also an aberration, because you have to, for a long time, humanity had, gathered and hunted. Do we have to go back? No. Because every time you incrementally make progress, you advance. So what you have advanced over the last 15 years, 70 years, 60 years, you have to hold on to them and make further advances. You don't go back. That's not done. And if you go on saying that everything we had, you worship the past, that is not done. That is not the way we progress. That is not the path for humanity. And people, today the political economy is such that people, platforms and organizations which had nothing at all to do with the long drawn freedom movement of this country are able to market themselves as patriots. We are patriots. And there are people who would say, whatever it is, they are patriots. Where were you when the nation was waging a huge war against colonialism? You were nowhere to be seen, and today you are marketing yourselves as patriots. That is the kind of political economy that we are living in. Inequality is all right. Let the billionaires grow. You will also get something. We are very good. We have been very good, and we will go back. So this past worshipping creed, I think this has to be understood and this has to be arrested.
My name is Umman.
What your name? Did I take?
No, I have seen YouTube remarks of you. You mentioned he knows nothing about economics. I'm not criticizing. It is your opinion. What is your opinion on the finance minister? Is she capable or knowledgeable?
That after the entire thing, there's just, for lack of time, our organizers have said only one question. See how it is wasted.
My question is whether India is slowly moving to capitalism.
My question is, in your book, there's a chapter on knowledge, like India's intellectual property, the ranking of our education institution.
Patents, IP, intellectual property.
So we are aiming to be developed by 2047. And what is the state of all these research and development in India? Without innovation, can we achieve what they are saying?
We are not moving towards capitalism. I mean, let's understand from 1991 we have signed up for what is called the neoliberal strategy. Okay. Have we really, in every aspect of it, have we come down to, have we come down to implement that? No, not yet. We are moving, but we also thought that somehow we can address the problems of inequality, both socially and economically. And for as Arun said, we are situated in a global market, and we need to do business and all that kind of a thing. And of course, we also need to, be favorably looked at by the international monetary agencies and all that. We've done that kind of a thing without much of a debate. There was no debate. It had to be done to manage the crisis. All right. But we also retained an element where we can address the question of inequality. But what I'm afraid now is we are slowly moving away from realizing or from accepting that now we have come to a stage where we don't have to address the question of inequality. That is the danger. It's a full blown kind of a neoliberal, heartless kind of an economic strategy, and where, as I also pointed out, it has a political counterpart. Now coming to this, irrespective of political parties, I'm not talking about one government, this government or previous government, or it's not that. Let's talk about India, not INDIA, but India. Somehow Arun also pointed out, what are the political parties doing? To me, political parties who are supposed to be the repositories of democracy themselves are very undemocratic. Most of the political parties are either pocket organizations or family-run organizations, with a very few honorable exceptions. Anyway, that's a different kind of thing. So nobody really addresses or addressed the core issues of where are we going? Where do we go? We have inequalities, as Arun pointed out, caste and religious and regional, etc. We don't address. In fact, most of our political parties take advantage of this. So when it comes to innovation, when it comes to fostering, because you see, innovation happens in an ecosystem. Brilliance, one of Srinivas Ramanujan, it happens. It was not a product of an ecosystem. What you need to build in India is an ecosystem which promotes, which encourages, which rewards innovation. And in order to reward innovation, you have to accept failure. If you sneer on failure, if you criticize failure, if you demean failure, then innovation cannot happen. Silicon Valley, the mantra is fail, but fail fast. They are not saying don't fail. If you don't fail, if you tell them not to fail, nobody innovates. It's not possible. So you need to foster that kind of a thing. Are we doing it? We are not doing it.
I used to be an optimist. I used to quote Charlie Chaplin's last words in his Great Dictator speech, that what we are witnessing is the passing of greed, and dictators will die, and the power they took from the people will return to them, and all of that. But now, after reading your book, and it's a very depressing book, even though it is the truth, but it is a truth that makes us all very sad. Why? And since you mentioned the politics of naming, I also want to talk about the title of your book, The Crooked Timber. Now that phrase is Immanuel Kant's, out of the crooked timber of humanity, nothing good can ever be made.
Nothing straight
nothing straight. And coincidentally, we are sitting under this tree where you have all these crooked branches. By the way, Isaiah Berlin used a title as for the collection of his essays, where he traced the ancient ideas and its 20th century practice. So my point is, where do we go from here? Because I feel that this modification of India will continue even without the Narendra Modi. that the RSS, BJP, Sangha Parivar out of power, even if it is to happen, which it seems very unlikely, but even if they are voted out of power, they will be more dangerous and more divisive out of power.
You know, if you become an optimist, if you had become a pessimist after reading what I wrote, I'm sorry, that was not my intention. You know, I have not become a pessimist. But you know, it is important for us to size up the situation. The reason why we landed here is, you know, we just let it go. You know, every political party, every political formation had done business with this. Everywhere. Don't think, you know, any political party is, you know, I call them all A1. You know, if there are any lawyers here, A1 is accused number one. A1, A2, A3. For me, almost all political parties, in one way or the other, directly or indirectly, they did business with this, you know, legitimized this, starting in 67, 68, 77, later, and all that. So, and they want a result in 2 months, 1 month time. It doesn't happen that way. And I believe in human agency. It has to be worked. It has to be fought. It has to be striven for. It has to be talked about. And if you understand the gravity of the situation, so my writing to bring it out into the open, the gravity is not to discourage people, you know, to tell them what is the depth of the danger that India is facing, the Republic is facing, the values are today, what kind of a challenge the values are facing. That is the reason. But civil society will have to work. Now, I've been lamenting this for a long time. See, the communal values, the values that I've so far been critical of, these values have an army. Do constitutional values have an army? I will feel secure if the constitutional values of pluralism, democracy, diversity, secularism also have an army of people who fight for it.
Yeah. So we have more or less wound up in time. Just to conclude, narrating a joke of a friend of mine. He said, our generation did not have the chance to take part in the freedom struggle. He said, Modi has given us chance. So let us not be pessimistic.